Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the FrostBytez Gaming Experience, part 2 of the Pokemon Emerald walkthrough, where we have got a lot to discuss here. We have a lot of wild encounters, and we've got ourselves some items that we completely forget about and have to backtrack in order to go out of our way to go and get. But not too bad, because every single time that I have to backtrack in order to get an item, I'm kind of looking to backtrack in the first place. That does also mean that there are some items that I do forget in this part that in the next part to go back and get. But again, I'm going to be looking to backtrack anyway, so not really much time is lost. And again, a whole bunch of wild encounters, but a majority of what's going to be going on here is I'm going to be talking about growth and care of plants, because this is actually kind of a new thing. It was a new thing brought into Gen 3, something that I never really paid too much attention to, because in a lot of cases I kind of do it like Gen 2, where I get the berry and then I call it good. Now in Gen 2, after you get the berry, I don't know how much time it takes in between, but after a while, you know, the berry eventually comes back. I think it's like a full day worth or something like that. And then once you pick up the berry, you know, well, once you picked it up, then you just wait for it to come back. In Gen 3, however, there's a number of steps you got to do when it comes to growing the plants, and I'm not going to go too much into it game-wise. You're going to see me pick up a couple berries and then plant them to regrow them, but outside of this part, in the first part, every single time I grab a berry, I'm just going to call it good. I'm not going to replant them or anything, because this walkthrough, again, is more looking towards making sure that we showcase all the trainers and all the items and all that, but I'm not going that much further beyond that. Okay? With that in mind, okay, if you do want to go insanely into the berries, there is a whole lot that you got to know about it. Because as you saw, you know, we saw a little sprout of the plants from the berries that I had planted. However, those only last for a certain amount of time until they hit like a maximum stage where if you haven't picked them yet, you talk to someone later on in this part. I'm actually talking to the lady that goes over about it. But after a certain amount of time, what ends up happening is that the berries fall off of the plant and have to regrow themselves back from the sprout. So you have to time when you need to go and get your berries in order to get the maximum amount out of them. But it doesn't just end there. Oh no, because we're going to be getting ourselves a Whalmer Pail further on down that increases the amount of math that you have to know in order to, you know, get the maximum out of your berries. Now again, is this something that you need to do to beat the game? No. Is it something that you probably need to do if you're going full competitive mode? Probably, because there are a lot of berries in this game that are really good when it comes to the competitive scene, based on based on the research that I have done. Again, I have not done the competitive scene myself, but I know about the competitive scene. I've done research based on it, and there are a lot of berries that are good for particular Pokemon in particular situations that can help you win. Okay, so if you want the maximum amount of care taken for your berries, here's what you need to know. So there is a formula here, all right? So the berries have 4 stages to begin with, which has a maturity that when it hits after a certain amount of time, if it hits the maximum amount, like I stated, the berries will drop down, it'll start to regrow. It can happen up to, from what I've read, 9 times, and then after that, the plant is completely lost. However, there is a formula in the game that goes as such. It is max minus min times, in parentheses, times, in parentheses, water minus 1 plus rand over 4 plus minimum. Your min-max is the amount of berries that can appear on the plant, which usually ranges between 1 and 4. Water is the amount of times that you watered the plant in between the individual stages before it hit its full maturity. And then the rand is the random integer, but that shows in between 0 and the max minimum min inclusive. Okay, so if you're really into math, there you go. Basically, if you are capable of getting all the math correctly and you are capable of watering the plants at all the right timings, which again, there are 4 separate stages of which you can water them when you plant them, and then it's like every 12 hours, I think is what it looks like. Every 12 hours, you'll hit a new stage, and you gotta water it within that stage. And then after 96 hours, when it hits its maximum amount, that's when you can get yourself all the berries on it. And if you water them every single 12 hours, it doesn't have to be on the dot. It has to be within the stage of the 12 hours from which you planted it to the next stage and the next stage. If you do that, and luck is a little bit on your side, what you end up getting is the maximum amount of, I believe, 4 berries, okay? Again, is that something I plan on doing when it comes to this walkthrough? Hell no. All right, that is far beyond anything that I really care about. But at the same time, I felt that it was needed because this is a walkthrough to go over, you know, how the berries work and how to get the most out of it if you are interested in getting the most out of your berries. You can look it up anywhere, Bulbapedia, I think it's Cerebi.net or something like that. All these different Pokemon websites, it'll give you a full rundown. You'll see the formula there. I'll probably paste in the middle of talking about it what the formula is in order to get the maximum out of your berries and what to do and all that. But again, if you really are interested in it, go out of your way, check it out, look it up on Bulbapedia, Cerebi, or any other Pokemon websites, or talk to somebody that just knows in general, someone that's in the competitive scene, of which I am not, so I cannot tell you otherwise. With that said, we are currently on route number 104. We had a number of hidden items that you were capable of getting within the beach sands. Not the hardest thing to find. I just recommend spamming A until you find it, but one's next to the shore, one's right underneath the pier, and the other one I think is like 2 steps away from where one of the fishermen is in order to collect, I believe it's a potion, a heart scale, and I can't remember what the other one is. Maybe it's a paralyzed heal or something like that, but those are all your hidden ordeals. With that said, route number 104 has 2 separate sections. The one that we were just in before heading into the Petalburg Woods, and then once we leave the Petalburg Woods, same exact ordeal. In that same route, we have a 20% chance to catch a Marill in the Emerald version only, a 40% chance to catch a Poochyena in the Emerald version only. You have a 50% chance to get a Zigzagoon in the Ruby and Sapphire versions only, along with a 30% chance Ruby and Sapphire versions for a Wurmple, 20% chance in the Emerald version for said Wurmple, 10% chance in all 3 versions to get a Tailo, and a 10% chance in all 3 versions in order to get yourself a Wingull. Once you do have Surf, you have a 95% chance to get a Wingull and a 5% chance to get a Pelipper. And when you are fishing, Old Rod, Good Rod, Super Rod, all of them had a 100% chance of getting yourself a Magikarp if you really want it that early. In the Petalburg Woods, however, different stats obviously. Emerald version only, you have a 30% chance to get a Poochyena with a 30% chance Zigzagoon in the Ruby and Sapphire versions only. Rest of these are all Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald versions. You have a 25% chance to get a Wurmple, 10% chance for a Silicoon, 10% chance for a Cascoon, 5% chance for a Tailo, 50% chance for a Shroomis, and a 5% chance for a Slackoth. Now, with that said, I know I hide it because I get rid of all the wild encounters that happen. You just gotta take my word for it. Those 5% happened to me a lot more than what I would have expected within those woods. I ran into 2 Slackoths and 1 Tailo. So, and there's a number of wild encounters that actually happen in this area because, again, when you have yourself the running shoes, you up the percentage chance of running into wild Pokemon. And, you know, that kind of happens to me here. Here is where one of the times I ran into a Slackoth. And then later on is where I ran into a Tailo. And then after I got the first hidden, it's either a Pokeball or a potion that I got before heading down south to get the other item that you can only get by heading into the woods, going to the east and then going downward. Right after getting that potion or Pokeball that was hidden within that grass patch, I ran into a Slackoth there. So I ran into a Slackoth there, the one that just happened, and then later on I ran into a Tailo. 5% chances of happening, all 3 of which happened. Very, very intense, very crazy. Now, why that can't happen to me when I'm trying to go on my way to capture a route, don't know. I'm just completely unlucky. Now, I'm not going to state too much about what my team's going to be. You guys are going to see what my team is the further on we go. And again, I like to try and make it very different than what most normal people would probably do in their Let's Plays. Not too different. I'm pretty sure there are. And, you know, me getting a Torchic already, like, that's not different. If you wanted to be different, you should have went for a Trico. Which, yeah, you're probably right. But again, I love fire types. So you're probably going to see me use fire types in every single Pokemon walkthrough that I ever do, considering the fact that I just love the fire types. It dates back to my love for Cyndaquil, because Cyndaquil was the first starter Pokemon I ever truly used. Technically Charmander was, but again, I don't consider my earlier days of doing Gen 1 counting because I never owned it and I mostly played it off of a friend's game and I would play for a couple hours and then that was it. You know, my first full run, Gen 2, it was with Cyndaquil, and that just kind of made me love fire types. A lot of that also comes with the fact that most fire types, you can't find... In most games, fire-type Pokemon you don't get until about, you know, after a couple gyms in. And generally because the first couple gyms that you go against usually involve using bug types in some or grass types in one way or another. I feel like going with the fire route is better, especially because most trainers you go against first are bug catchers, as we see here with the Nincada. It's easier to just progress through much quicker than if you did it with a water type or a grass type. Now, obviously, especially in Gen 3 along with Gen 1, when the first gym leader you go against is a rock type, yes, that kind of does halt the progress a little bit. But, again, I still kind of feel like because most fire types you can't get till much further in the game, you can get water types and grass types much sooner in Wild, that if you want to have a good, diverse Pokemon team, for the game anyways, in my humble opinion, I usually think that it's best. That's where I run into the Tailo, by the way. I feel like that's when it's best to go out of your way and get a fire type, because then your team can be well-rounded with a fire, a grass, and a water without having to wait too long into the game to get your first fire type. You know, and again, this is mostly with my knowledge of Gens 1, 2, 3. I believe 5 did it the same, and that's it. I still haven't played Gen 4 aside from Heart Gold. You know, Gen 4, I'm still waiting to do it live. Most likely I'll be doing it on Twitch and then uploading it onto YouTube, you know, so everyone can get my experience with Gen 4 without having ever played it before. And then I'll probably look to do the same with Gen 6 and 7 because, again, I didn't really have the money to afford a Nintendo 3DS for a long time, so I haven't gone on my way to play those generations, and I don't feel like I missed out on too much, because from what I've seen, not exactly what, you know, what I would find fun in Pokemon personally, but, you know, that's just my own take on it. Very excited for Gen 8 being on the Switch, though, because that is one that I am definitely going to do. Probably will do it live on Twitch as well. Not exactly sure. We'll see. Depends on how things look scheduling-wise with the job, and then, you know, just my free time in general. I don't know. We'll see, because there's a lot of other things that I'm curious I'm doing with Twitch anyways, even if I'm still interested in doing Twitch in the first place. It seems like every single time I try and do Twitch, it sounds good, and then I hit a point where I'm like, I just cannot time-wise continue doing it. Maybe it'll be different, I'm not exactly sure, but we'll see. Either way, I know that when I do hit Gen 4, it's going to be completely unknown, all that stuff. So, Gens 4, 6, and 7, I'm not exactly sure if you can get a fire type really early. I'm not exactly sure. You know, I'm not going to state anything that I don't fully know, but I do know in Gens 1, 2, 3, and if I remember correctly, 5, you don't really get a fire type for quite some time. So if you want a good, well-rounded team in the very beginning of the game, going with the fire type star is pretty good. We now have ourselves the Whalmer Pail, which we can now use to water our plants. So boom, we've already got ourselves 1 point in the water stage, and now we got to wait 12 hours to do it again. Again, not going to be doing it myself, but hey, sometimes you can have just a little bit of fun showcasing it. That is the last that I actually do when it comes to planting the berries in the first place. Every other berry I'm going to pick up is just going to be a pickup, call it good. I'm not going to replant them. I know, I'm a horrible person. I'm pretty sure environmentalists are going to be cursing at me for not doing it in a video game. I don't care. Simple as that. I don't really care. Anyways, so we're finishing up the second part of route number 104. We got a couple more trainers we're going against. One of which that we were going to skip outright because it is supposed to be our introduction into tag team battles, but we still only have a Torchic, and the kids that do the tag team battles are actually really nice about it because they say, hey, it's not really fair that we gang up on you 2v1 if you only have one Pokemon. You should come back to us when you have two Pokemon. Doesn't really matter in my case because it's like, hey, my Torchic's actually a really high level, so I'm going to school both of you anyways. Come at me. But, you know, gotta give it to the kids. They're like, hey, 2v1 doesn't sound fun. Come back when you have another Pokemon, which is one of the reasons why we will be backtracking in the next part to get the potion I missed. So behind the flower shop, we ended up getting ourselves a hidden super potion along with a basic potion. There's also a hidden Pokeball that I completely forgot about, so I got to backtrack to go ahead and get that. I am going to backtrack to get another Pokemon, not for the team, but to do the 2v2 battle. And later on, there is actually an old lady that I forget to talk to that gives me a free berry. Stuff that, you know, you can really do without, but again, this is a 100% walkthrough. So because of that, you know, I am going to showcase every single thing. Even if I do forget it, I will backtrack and go get it. So I have to battle this fisherman that's like, oh, I'm like a master fisherman, but you don't know who I am, who runs nothing but Magikarp, so it's like, no wonder no one knows who you are. I still would have loved it if he like threw out like a level 5 Gyarados at the very end. It's like, that really caught me out of nowhere. That's awesome, but, you know, all that. Anyways, So we are actually coming really close to the part coming to an end. After we're done dealing with this fisherman, we'll get ourselves a couple berries, heading to the next town, and we call it a part right there. But once again, when we come back on the next part, I will be talking to the old lady to get the berry that I missed, going back to get the Pokeball that I missed, and then getting a Pokemon on the team so that I can battle the two girls, 2v2. I think I know exactly what Pokemon it is that I am going to look to pick up. Actually, I don't think I can now that I think about it. I don't know if they're available, and it is not, so I'm actually unable to do what I was originally planning to, unless I can get the specific Pokemon out on Route 105. I do not remember. I'm going to have to take a look, but I will be looking to backtrack in the next part just to get all that taken care of. And, you know, in a lot of cases when it comes to Pokemon Gen 3, there's a lot of backtracking in general. There's a lot of times you're going to be in one city, go to another part, and then you end up finding your way back. This is what I would call a Pokemon game where you do more backtracking than just about any other place, because, you know, we were at the Petalburg City, talked to our dad there, but we weren't able to challenge him in the gym, meaning that we had to come back later on to actually be able to challenge him. And when you see in the map, there's like a big circle turnoff point that you essentially utilize, and you end up going from one area back to the other, back and back again. You know, what can you do about it? But hey, that's going to be the end of the part, ladies and gentlemen. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your evenings, and we'll catch you all on the next part.